All right, today we're going to crack open the logic that makes all of our favorite websites and apps feel, alive. We're going to break down the basic commands that power literally everything, from a simple button click all the way to your entire online shopping experience. So yeah, let's just dive right in. I mean, really? Have you ever thought about it? How does it know to show you a welcome message or add an item to your cart? How does it react the instant you click a button? It might seem like magic, but I promise you it's not. It's actually just a series of really simple, logical steps that we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so this mind map here, this is going to be our roadmap for today. And I know, at first glance, it might look a little overwhelming, but it's really just a few key ideas. We're going to tackle them one by one, and by the end, you'll see exactly how they all connect to create a super powerful toolkit. So where do we start? Well, before a program can do anything, like make a decision or perform an action, it needs a way to remember stuff. And that is the first and maybe the most crucial step, storing information. The easiest way to think about a variable is to picture a label box, like a little memory box. You give that box a name, say username or total score, and then you put something inside it. The cool part is, later on, you can look inside that box, see what's there, or even swap out what's inside for something totally new.
So, how do we actually create these memory boxes? In JavaScript, we use special keywords to declare them. You're going to see let, const, and var all over the place. These are basically our instructions to the computer, telling it, hey, set aside a little piece of memory for me and give it this name.
Okay, so the main takeaway here, just focus on let and const. You use let for things that might change, like the score in a game, and you use const for values that should never change, like a user's birthday. You'll still see the older var keyword around, but honestly, let and const are the modern standard for a good reason. They just make your code way more predictable. Now, what's cool is that these boxes can hold all sorts of different information. We can put numbers in them, text, which, by the way, programmers call strings, or even simple true or false values. Understanding the type of data you're dealing with is absolutely crucial because it dictates what you can do with it. And that brings us right to our next key concept. All right, so once we have our information stored away in our variables, the next step is to start asking questions about it. This is how a program actually starts to think and figure out what's going on.
This question. This is a classic that trips up so many people when they're starting out. To our eyes, they look exactly the same, right? But to a computer, one is a number you can do math with, and the other is just, it's just text. The answer the computer gives depends entirely on how you ask the question.
And this shows the difference perfectly. If you use two equal signs, that's loose equality, the computer tries to be helpful and basically says, they look the same, so I'll say it's true. But if you use three equal signs, strict equality, the computer is way more precise. It checks the value and the data type and says, nope, a number is not the same as text. This is false. Pro tip, using strict equality is almost always the safer bet. Trust me. And this isn't just some minor detail. This distinction is absolutely critical. Using different ways to compare things can lead to completely different results, especially when your code gets more complicated. In programming, that kind of precision is everything. And we can get even fancier by chaining questions together. For example, we could check if a user is logged in and has items in their cart. Or we could check if today is a weekend or if it's a holiday. This lets us build much more sophisticated logic. Okay, so we've got our information and we've asked our questions. Now for the fun part, the payoff, making decisions. This is where our code really starts to come alive. The official name for this is control flow. The best way to think about it is like you're walking down a path and you come to a fork in the road. Control flow is what lets the program look at the answer to a question, like, is it raining, and then decide whether to go left or right. And our main tool for creating these forks in the road, these decision points, is the if-else statement. It's a really direct way to turn that fork in the road idea right into code. So let's just walk through it real quick. The program first asks the if question. If the answer is yes, it runs a chunk of code and then just skips the rest. But if the answer is no, it moves on to the else if and asks another question. And if all of those questions come back false, it finally just runs the else code as a kind of fallback. It's a super simple but incredibly powerful decision tree. All right, our final core concept. What if you need to do something not just once, but say 10 times or 1,000 times? You're definitely not going to write the same line of code over and over again. You need a way to tell the computer, run this on repeat.
And that is where loops come in. The two most common kinds you'll see are for loops and while loops. These things are the real workhorses of programming. They automate all those repetitive tasks and save us from a ton of boring work.
So here's the simple way to think about it. You use a for loop when you know exactly how many times you need to repeat something, like process these 10 photos. And you use a while loop when you want to keep doing something as long as a condition is true, like keep checking for new messages as long as the user is online. See the difference? And that's our final piece. We've just put together the fundamental toolkit for telling a computer what to do. So let's do a quick recap of how it all fits together. Okay, so we started with variables, right? Those are our memory boxes. Then we learned about data types, which define what kind of info is in those boxes. We used operators to ask questions, then control flow to make decisions based on the answers, and finally, we used loops to do things over and over again. See? Each piece just builds on the last one.
Here's the wild part. Every single complex application, every interactive website you've ever used is built from these simple, powerful ideas all working together. They are the absolute building blocks of logic. So the only real question left is, now that you know what they are, what are you going to build?